Hi, my name is Lea, and I am a designer, and I went to Parsons. I jumped through the roof when I got accepted with a scholarship, and then I graduated several years ago. I had, so a little bit of my background. I had been a website manager, an art director, and then a freelancer, and I had my own store in order to sponsorize myself in the US. And then I ended up being opening my own store, and I ended up, as soon as I had my work permit before your green card, I went in and I got a job, like the first job that I thought was for a good company and was not. And I ended up, long story short, I ended up in studio services. Then I got recruited. And to tell you a little anecdote in order to open this presentation, which is about UX design, I got recruited and I work in fashion. So in fashion, we have like the evil wears Prada, and the behind the scenes is true. Like any other industry, you have very mean people. And one day my boss yelled at me not so long ago and said to me that people the way that people introduce themselves and the way that people really are is totally two different things, and that there were a reason why things were the way they were, and that I had to be more careful and pay more attention. So on that note, I really thought about that because I took this UX design courses to improve my life, and you improve your life by improving life of the others. So what we are going to review today is UX presentation about an application called Uinvest. And first of all, I changed a little bit the format that was required because I wanted to explain why I chose the subject I chose as a designer. And then we will see the persona, and then we will see the flow who created a specific layout, the design decisions that I chose, and the fact that I chose to put the user at the center, the early prototyping, the user testing, the problem and solution, and what is next and what I learned finally. So first of all, I chose that specific subject which touched finance and people's finance because I Googled what were the world's biggest problem, and I ended up into the first ranked on Google was the United Nations Foundation, and he ranked poverty and economy as a third world problem, and that was a global issue. So that told me that there were room to look for plenty and a various form of solution. And the reason why was, first of all, because we can have an overview and a perspective from an institution that really care about our future and that it's their job. And we can have also a global perspective on how the human species is doing in that specific industry. And obviously there is a lot of work to be done, so that increased, if you would say, my chances to have a good answer to the problem. So let's move on to our persona. So the main specific persona that would use this app would be Anne Clayton, which is 27 years old. She lives in New York. She's a stylist. She loves veganism. I don't know if you can say that. She loves reading, traveling, style, arts, and animals. And she said, I'm a curious person, I'm a geek. What people consider to be boring is fascinating to me. I like research and I ask questions. So we are faced to someone very curious that is looking for answers and looking for answers to her problem. And that is the type of person that we are really targeting more than some I would say like gender or characteristic or demographic issue. We would be more access into a personality type of into a personality type, because people buy and people use personality first and main of all. And I that's what my years in sales really learned me, and I think that this is really important to be emphasized on. The brief, so our problem would be that she wants to become an investor. She wants to elevate herself socially, have more money, and a better management of money, which is often where the problem lies. It's not that people don't really have money, it's because our lifestyle is so high that we are running out of the money that we make. And if you want to keep up, I would say, with our common daily life, and everyone is kind of like have to keep up, and she wants to have a credit card, a good credit, and more money. That's something very important to her for her future, in order to ameliorate and increase a better credit score, and she's very self-conscious of that. She needs to have access to a financial advisor in order to solve her problem. She needs a long-term and a short-term plan, which most of the people forget. And that's what our research really developed that and emphasized that. And they need to have an access to investment and a financial education, because the data really showed throughout this research that the main problem was not that people did not have money around in what we consider as developed country. It's that they didn't really knew what money was. Money was something very relative, and something very abstract. And the behavior of people was very, very, very interesting in that specific case study that I really want to dive deeper into. So she's the type to say money is such a huge part of our life, and everyone talks about it. Nobody never taught me about it. And it's a little bit the rich dad, poor dad story. So that came up to me to change again the format of the presentation and insert quote, because if you are born poor, it's not your mistake, but if you die poor, it is your mistake. And the mistake that people most commonly do is that people believe that because they will hit $1 million in the bank account, I think that most of the people don't even know what they will do with it. They will certainly like invest, but investing in itself is a very abstract concept. And what you really do not realize, and those people do not realize when you do the research, it's not my job to judge, but it really percuted me and appeared very clear to me that they did not realize that what was hard to do was not to make money, but was to keep money, which is like a huge difference. And so we're gonna move on into the early prototyping. So this is a translation of a process through a user flow. And unlike my previous user flow that I already did in my life, I would like to use, I wanted to put the user really as the departure point, as the end point, and at the top of the pyramid, if I would say, and in the center of everything that I would do. And it showed in every aspect, and that's something that I really religiously worked very hard on. And the user at the center of the process, a self-generated part, a generated part, and start creating as well a sense of trust and control. That was really the intention behind the foundation of this project in early prototyping. So the early prototyping, those are very low resolution because they are JPEG images, but this is like the user steps and the kind of survey that the first time user will have to go through. And I started with 70 rough frames that I edited into 40 frames. So the early prototyping and editing part ended up really with 40 frames. That's what we ended up with. So it was really several tasks. It was several process, I would say, and I kind of like put an overview of the whole process and how I built the process. I started with a flat out step-by-step process, and then I referred to the user flow to then create and arrive to create the wireframes and the prototypes. So obviously, meanwhile I was creating those prototypes and wireframes by the help of Prot and .com and InVision. I encountered many problems. One of the main problems that I encountered is that I had 40 frames. So, of course, some designs were malfunctioned. And when I did my user research and my user task, one of my first question in my first scenario was to ask the user research to sign up and book with an advisor, which was a primary feature of this application, to really have a one-on-one connection with a financial advisor and to feel the user and give him a sense of trust and control. And in this application, because we were touching about a very sensitive matter, which was money and finances, making a sense of trust and control was absolutely a must. And the first task was to book, and it was a pure design catastrophe. The book icon was not working. So I ended up, as you can see on the far right, added 3 more steps. So it was literally 6 steps in order to book a call, to book a consultation that was completely wrong. So I submitted the wireframe, and then today I reconducted again user research, and I narrowed it down to 4 steps because the flow had to be easy. I had to create a sense of ease for the user that does not have a time, and there is a reason why, exactly as I talked about in the beginning, when my boss yelled at me and said, the way that people introduce themselves to you and the way they really are is two totally different things, and I don't want you to get hurt. But there is a reason why people are in those situations today, and that was really powerful, and that was really an epiphany for me. And the reason why, for me, my personal conclusion after all of those data collected, the user is not knowing really the deep down and the nitty gritty of finances. Meanwhile, he has to submit to it every single day, is really because it's not easy. And the process is not being made easy. The process is not being made simple. And everything that is simple requires a huge, massive amount of work behind it. And that's what I would try to do, a simpler, more readable version of it, with even voice recognition that would type in, and he would not, or she would not have to type in. so Anne will not have to type anything. She can just talk to her advisor. The second problem that I encountered was because there is a generated part where there is a publication of quarterly report in bullet points, very easy to read, very straightforward. In order to read the 70-page reports, we just have like a summary of the reports, and they can then buy and invest in what they believe they know and they feel confident about. But there is a generated part where people can actually interact and where a sort of like financial community can be created, and there were no published content, and there were no bubbles, there was no speech space. So that was a very embarrassing moment. And I made a mistake in my presentation. Yep. So that was a very, very, very embarrassing part. So what I did was I started by making a bubble speech and making the publish button inside of a bubble speech, and that was not working at all. So I ended up with a publish button, very much like a layout, a little bit like Facebook, but not really. It was down in the publish button, and it's just published, and people can comment under it, and you have like hearts, champion questions and everything, and you have also like a form of a blog where people can participate. And my third problem, which was the hardest by far, was the menu. So I did my card sorting for the menu last, and I should have done that way before, and that was a real epiphany. So I think that from now on, I'm just gonna use really card sorting for menus, and so it's kind of like a form of burger menu. And I'd started by wishlist, portfolio, your money work, advisor, progress, and review. And it's ended by wishlist, my portfolio, financial advisor, company billets, point report, credit cards. And that was the second trial. And financial advisor was way too cold, and was not as appealing as advisor, because advisor is really, I noticed that in the feedback of my user research and the data, advisor in the mind of people refer to something much more trustworthy than financial advisor. Financial advisor was a function, and you would go to him for that specific function. Meanwhile, when you are a financial advisor, you have to kind of unveil really your entire life, because you're going to unveil your life spending, you're going to unveil your project, you're going to unveil your goals, your dreams, and so on and so forth. So it's a very intimate experience that they will have to go through, and this is a big part of the empathy that I did not get. Company bullet points report that was very badly articulated, and credit card application was just wrong, because it was not a credit card application, it was to increase a credit. So we transformed it to reviews, possibilities, how money works, budget, portfolio, and improvement. And reviews had no place, actually. And possibilities was just a wrong connotation. And I really noticed that opportunities, as you can see in the next page, opportunities was the word that connected the most, and it appeared really evident to me that it connected the most when I conduct the user research with each of my users than possibilities. Opportunities speaks to people because those people are looking for opportunities. So that's what they want, that's what they invest, and they see an important opportunity and they invest. And it appeared evident to me that this had a very a huge place. So I put it like right before improvement, because opportunities lead kind of to improvement. So you will have a tendency, once you click on opportunities, to come back and see your improvement. And then you have, of course, like the portfolio, how money works. And instead of financial advisor, I just put my advisor, to have a connotation like more personable, more in the building, because we really would like to build this product with the intent that the user will have a trust and a confidence, and it will really have a positive impact on his personal life, and solve such a dense, immense part of his daily life problem excuse me, that for the stakeholder and for the company, that would be just a more positive outcome to install this personable type of relationship. So it was pretty much it for the problem. I encountered other problems, but those were the main one. There are still a lot of problems that I would like to continue solving, and the best way to predict the future is to create it, as I say. I don't remember who said that quote. So I would like to do more user testing. I would like to build this application. I would like to put it on the market. I did not write that down, but yes. I would like to install more trust on our side, on the advisor sides, on the user sides, and on the stakeholder sides also as well. Test high resolution wireframes, worked on detail, and arrange and add more pages to all of the features. So those are some examples of high resolution wireframes. There are 40 of them, and I intend to do a little bit more and to test them by the help of InVision. And to finish and conclude, what I have learned, I just put a quote of Maya Angelou that sounded right to me and hit right at home for me, and it was what I learned. I have learned that I still have a lot to learn, and that's by Maya Angelou, which is a human being that I particularly appreciate. And to involve and make the user feel involved. That's what I would like to do. To not be as sketchy in my process, not sketchy in a bad term, but not to be as fast, and to be more understood. So I have to work. I did immense progress in being straight to the point in those past few weeks, actually. Immense. A world of difference compared to what I was before. But I still have a lot to go. And to understand what is not being said from my user, to connect more with the user at all times, to continue to increase my empathy, that is increasing every day, in order to really comprehend all of the facets of each of the user and their personalities and how we impact the product, really, and how we will impact the product for us and for the stakeholder. That might be me. As of now, it's me. And really to be an advocate for the user and keep a business mind. And I totally believe that this balance is possible. So have a great day, ladies and gentlemen, a great end of your week, and see you next time. Bye.